No questions? Oh, I see Jason Chang has unmuted.
Yeah, I have a question about the sign up stuff. How many of these events are we for?
I'm sorry, you were cutting in and out. What was the question?
Uh,
Maybe you could put
this
it in chat also.
this is am I still
Yeah,
cutting in
I
or
can
out?
hear you. That's better. Yes.
Okay, great. I was just had a question about the sign up stuff. So how many of these workshops were we supposed to sign up for?
I think that's an ESEC question, not an EDI question.
Oh, are you talking about the engineering leadership workshop?
Yeah, because I didn't realize there were other ones because I only got an invitation to this one.
I see. Who did you get the invitation for this one from?
Bonnie from UP.
Okay, yeah, so the invitation was sent out at the beginning of, actually it should have been last month, a while ago, to all the officer contact information that we had on record. If you guys had filled out your annual report form and updated contact list. So the expectation is that a representative from your org is present for every session that is relevant to you. Like, for example, we have a lab safety session coming up, but some of you don't really do technical projects. In that case, it wouldn't be necessary for you to attend that session. But everything else, like, for example, our first session where we presented on how to affiliate with the School of Engineering, that would have been an example of a session where everybody would have been expected to come. So in this case, I think that as long as somebody from your org was represented in that session, then you should be okay. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, that helps.
See, I see some questions in the chat. The first one from Elena are there any workshops or trainings for officers or students to be more inclusive? So right now, what we're hoping to do, the short answer is not immediately, but our plan is to train more facilitators for the awareness to action training workshop and deploy that more broadly. So that would be something that we would want, or at least offer to student org leaders. But right now it's a little bit ad hoc. You might want to check on, SOL resources at UCLA or other webinars that you can get through your parent organizations. But our awareness to action is not yet ready to deploy that broadly. And do you have a follow-up question, Elena, or is that satisfactory? All right, perfect. All right, I'm going to move on to Marcus's question. He's asking about the EDI Council. Sounds like orgs can send a representative, potential EDI officer to the meeting. Okay, so there's two sets of, actually there's like two types of EDI meetings. The first is the school-wide standing committee on diversity, which I mentioned that has about 24 members. It's limited in that we wanted to make sure that it was a small enough number that we could actually have discussions and get work done. We also have 4 subcommittees on top of that. And the membership for that one is by invitation from the Dean's office, primarily to student groups that are identity and affinity based. However, there are representatives for ESUC, for example, which is one of the reasons why recently ESUC established its own EDI chair. And that EDI chair serves as the chair of a separate committee that pretty much all of you are welcome to join. I don't think you necessarily have to have only one representative from your student org. And that's the one where I mentioned, just checking in my notes, I went through the 51 student org list, and I found that only 4 student orgs actually had official EDI officers named, and then some of those organizations had multiple individuals, which is how we got up to 9 students. I think, every one of the 50 plus student orgs can identify at least one person and send them to this larger, more open EDI subcommittee or committee that's run by ESUC. So the short answer is that some student orgs that are identity-based have representatives on the school-wide standing committee, but any student can have a representative on the ESUC EDI committee. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good clarification. Could you or someone from the ESUC committee talk a little more about what that committee does? I'm also not sure. I remember I heard about it spring quarter of last year, so I'm not sure how old it is, how established it is, but I'd like to just hear more about what are we going there to do?
Yeah, is there anyone, is the ESUC EDI chair on the call today?
Yeah, so she wasn't able to join us today, but I can talk a little bit about it. It's actually pretty open-ended at the moment. I think the first few meetings will be figuring out what exactly should be accomplished at these subcommittee meetings. But the idea will be to have them once or twice a quarter, most likely before the standing committee meetings happen, so that we can discuss what we should bring up at those standing committee meetings, and it can be an open space for anybody to join. That way the ideas that are discussed there can be carried through.
I think that's a perfect description. It's really new. I mean, it's probably the EDI chair position was probably stood up within the past year. And then of course, with elections, it turned over. And the last I heard, the first year that this ESUC EDI committee existed, at least 18 student orgs had nominated representatives. And that goes back to one of the recommendations that I'd like to reiterate here, which is that even if your student org doesn't feel the need to actually have an election or change your bylaws or your board composition to have an explicitly named EDI officer, I would still like to have at least someone on the board be a designated primary point of contact for any EDI concerns. And that person can then by default be the representative on the ESUC EDI committee. And I think that committee was created to allow for more students to be involved in EDI type of discussions and have a way to communicate concerns or ideas to the dean's leadership, given that the school-wide committee had a limited membership. Thanks, Amika. She just put into the chat the ESUC EDI chair email if you want to reach out.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Hi, Elle.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. So I also have a couple of questions. First of all, I just want to thank you, Dr. Santos, for all that you have done. The growth over just this past year has been incredible. So thank you for that. But yeah, just starting, it's really great news to hear that there's another gender neutral bathroom in Boulter. And I was wondering if there were any updates on when that would be implemented for E4, E5, and E6, because that is one thing that a couple of students have reached out to me about, and I think it's really important to start discussions on.
I think that's an awesome point, Elle. I don't have any updates for you, but I'm going to bring that request to our interim associate dean for research and infrastructure, because I think that we should at least have one per building. It's kind of ridiculous to send people across buildings and to the 9th floor, for example. So I totally agree, and I will see how we can get working on that. It won't be overnight. It took a while just to get the approval and the cost estimates and everything for the renovation on the 6th floor of Belter Hall, but at least it happened. So the sooner we get that discussion going, the sooner we can get quotes and approvals.
Great, thank you so much.
Yep.
Another thing I just want to add, and this is more of a question for like the whole group, because we're all here, all these club leaders, and So basically, I'm wondering if we can all compile resources together, because I know a lot of us have individually been working on trainings. Personally, ASME has made a couple of officer trainings as well as general member trainings that focus on a variety of EDI topics. And we also want to expand to more technical EDI trainings, like how to implement EDI into your actual design work and stuff like that. And I think that this could be a really great opportunity for some collaborative work. So I don't know the best way to do this, basically. But if anyone has any suggestions for where we could store this information, how we could communicate, I would love to hear it.
Nika, go ahead and add on if I miss anything, but I know that we have an engineering organization Slack workspace. I actually haven't looked at it in a while, so but that would probably be a place we can all currently put resources together. If anyone has any suggestions for, you know, something more organized, something like that, I'm sure we're all open to it. But currently we do have a Slack workspace that for engineering orgs to collaborate on just anything.
Yeah, that sounds great. If people want to, oh, awesome. Someone already put that in the Slack. Okay, awesome. Yeah, that sounds good to me. And I see other people like EDI Discord. Yeah, Katie, that's a great idea. But starting on Slack sounds good to me. But yeah, I think those are all the questions I have for now.
Elle, I think your suggestion goes nicely with Elena's question in the chat about, do you have any more tangible ideas on how we can contribute to EDI? And I think that there are at least two ways. You mentioned the technical one. So every technical type of student org can be thinking with their EDI hat on, you know, how would an individual with a disability use this particular technology that you're designing, for example? Is your student org website, you know, is that, does that pass muster when it comes to readability by individuals with visual impairments? That's something that I think one of the IEEE groups was working on. And then as far as the non-technical stuff, I just think that, you know, our school climate within the departments, within each individual culture of your student org, and definitely at the school level, we can always improve climate for everyone and be more inclusive. So if you wanted to, you know, co-host open to all events, I will pay for them. I would love to see you guys getting together and build that sense of community and, you know, talk about these types of issues that you know, often go overlooked. Are there other ideas that you guys have for improvements throughout our school, including the physical improvements, like Elle suggested, more gender neutral bathrooms, but you know, any other ideas out there? Feel free to throw them in the chat or unmute yourselves. Well, I can tell you that we've got some exciting things coming down the pipeline for faculty hiring this year. We have 4 mentor professor positions open. We have a new Hispanic serving institution position that we're going to be launching a search for, that's in partnership with the Chicano Studies Research Center. And then we're still awaiting approval to see if we get a slot for the Rising to the Challenge search. But you know, as I showed in my presentation, I'm very pleased with how the past 2 years have gone. So I'd like to see that continue, get more diversity in our faculty ranks.